This is a production of Cornell University.
Thank you guys for having me at your meeting today. I'm really excited to be here and so excited to hear about all the great work that you're doing with youth in your counties. It was really great to get the introductions that way. So one thing that we've really been trying to do in the state 4-H team is to connect our 4-H resources across Extension, because we realize there are a lot of people in Extension that are working with youth but may not necessarily see their connection to 4-H or the value of the connection to 4-H that's happening at the level and the local level too. So I'm really excited that you guys are all part of the team and that we're doing this great work together. I should probably start at the beginning by introducing myself. My name is Alexa Maille, and I am the state STEM specialist here on campus in Beebe Hall. And I call myself a science nerd all the time. I love doing this kind of stuff, learning stuff, but I came to campus by working in the local level, mostly in Clinton County, and we did a lot of work with local foods there and connecting gardening activities with nutrition and healthy living. And so the kinds of projects that you guys are talking about, I really enjoyed doing at the local level too, and I'm hoping we can build this up across the state. National Council has this Sod New Brand Campaign all about 4-H growth here, and one of the things National Council is really good at is translating our 4-H story into something that's interesting for youth and their families and isn't just Extension jargon, which is good for me because I talk in Extension jargon a lot. So that's one of the reasons why the STEM plan that I'm working on right now is framed in the idea of grows here. It's particularly fitting when we talk about gardening and also when we talk about growing young people. This is all kinds of information about why STEM matters, things you probably heard before. There's so many jobs out there that are STEM related, but there's not enough people going for them, or they're all white men. There's not enough women, there's not enough minorities, all that kind of stuff. So we can play with some numbers if you want. But what I really want to show you is this, which is 4-H grows curiosity. And the reason that I love STEM learning so much is because I love questions. Anybody else like questions? Like learning something new, the challenge of discovery, of achieving based on something you've done with a group, or that light bulb moment that a young person is figuring out something for the first time or teaching it to someone else. And we do that in 4-H all the time. In the garden, in the classroom, in the club setting, in the show ring, wherever we are. And so what I'm trying to do with my STEM plan is to take the work that everybody's doing across the counties and connect it with a common thread, so that we can have a way to tell our story that's useful for inviting new families and young people to become involved, to tell our story to funders and stakeholders so that our programs can be sustainable and grow stronger. And so we can learn from the programs that we're doing so that we can do them even better. So I've been doing a lot of talking. I've been in this position for a year or so. So I've been doing a lot of learning about the different programs that are happening across the state and trying to figure out what those common threads are. And this is what I've heard from people. I'm thinking about it as a learning pathway. So there are lots of different projects, lots of different approaches, and ways that this pathway might actually look like for an individual, but these are common steps that we take. So we start out by sparking curiosity, the idea of inviting a young person into the garden for the first time. I mean, I remember one I think he was maybe a fourth grader or something, and we brought him to a Master Gardener's vegetable garden, and he asked us how we got the cucumbers on the plants like that. He thought that we had gone ahead of time and glued them all to the plants, so they were all there. And he was just so curious how it worked, and sparking that kind of wonder and letting young people see that there's something new out there. We do that in a lot of different ways. And then we're hoping to build on that so that we're providing opportunities for kids to answer those questions. So maybe next time he would grow his own plant and see that actually it comes that way first, and then we take the cucumber off, right? And then eventually these experiential learning opportunities can lead to investigations or engineering designs if the science aspect of their experience is something that they want to do more of. So they might do some kind of experiment about a pest that's bothering their cucumber plant and try to figure out a way to help it grow stronger or to get rid of the pest or that kind of thing, or design a cage or tool or whatever it was that would solve the problem for their garden. And then not only that, we really want to help young people make a difference in the world around them. I mean, especially with the challenges with climate change and food security and all of these really huge things that we're all facing. We need as many people as possible to put their brain power and their creativity and their curiosity to solve those kind of problems. And young people have really great ideas for how to make that happen. And I've heard from some of your projects that you've seen youth doing that too. And ultimately, that's our goal in the 4-H program, is to have youth and adults working together to make change for their community. So this is what I'm really excited about trying to help happen for 4-H in New York State. So this is one pathway. And then in the bigger picture, we have a portfolio of different science and technology and engineering activities and learning opportunities for young people to be able to experience. So this is what I think about as our program portfolio, or if you like the logic model idea, these are our inputs and our outputs and our outcomes and those kinds of idea. The big picture ecosystem of our STEM learning experiences. So kids can do just about anything in 4-H, but it does help us as professionals to be able to focus a little bit. So we have certain projects and activities that are particularly strong in New York State compared to other states. So our plant science and animal science and those kind of projects, are geospatial projects and drones and those kinds of things. And then we're working on some emerging technologies, new project areas for youth, so computer coding and sustainable polymers and that kind of thing. So some of these project areas you may work in and some of them you may not, but the underlying experience in each one of these topic areas could still follow that grow curiosity pathway. With our ultimate goal is that with young people building on that curiosity to see themselves as science people and maybe want to explore science careers or do service work in their community using science to solve problems, but ultimately helping them to be good citizens and to think about information in that way where they're checking their evidence and making good decisions and that kind of idea. So the picture that's in the middle of this, the circles, are based out of a positive youth development model by Richard Lerner. So there are 3 things that his research shows that young people really need in order to thrive, and those three things 4-H really provides. So that's a skill-building opportunity, a long-term caring adult, and meaningful leadership opportunities. So that's why this particular picture and ecosystem is shaped in that way. So you leading a community garden program or engaging with the libraries provide that caring relationship with a young person that is really foundational to everything that we need to do in youth development. And the volunteers that you work with and the master gardeners and the mentors in those spaces are really foundational for making that happen. And so it's our job as a system to help each other do that better and to help our youth take a leadership role in that way too. So it's also a peer mentoring experience, and it's building up the social capital of our entire system. And then part of that comes from organizational culture change and strengthening and growth as we all practice these science activities more and practices and learning about how to ask questions that can be answered with evidence and sharing our evidence and learning from our programs together, that kind of idea. Also just mention that all the work that we do through Extension that engages youth is 4-H work. So I would just be curious to see what you guys think about this idea of growing curiosity and if it fits in with the work that you're doing in community gardens and school gardens and with master gardeners, or if there's anything that's really far off base or changes you would make or suggestions. Any thoughts you have about it? I like pictures to explain things.
I particularly like this too because it also can provide a framework for some of our efforts with children and youth audiences. When we are doing program with youth, how do we fit into this pathway? Where are we coming at? So I think that's a nice framework.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to have conversations and to build up relationships between staff members. I mean, when I worked in Clinton County, we had the advantage of being really small. So we had to run into each other at the coffee pot and whatever and talk and share and learn about each other's programs. But in a bigger county, that's harder to do. And I think that's something we all have to be intentional about so that anytime I would want to do a program that would involve gardening or an agriculture kind of angle, it would be good to check in with ag staff to see what they're doing and if there's anything that relates. And so vice versa. If you and your horticulture program are doing something that you'd like to engage young people with, the 4-H staff in your office need to know about that. It's practical for you because they might have some resources that are helpful already that maybe you know about, but maybe you don't. And then it's also structural. So all of our youth numbers and reporting and everything has to go through the 4-H system. So your staff, 4-H staff can help you figure that out. So it's really something that we should be working on as a team. And I prefer a personal approach, just, stopping by or calling up or emailing or whatever the 4-H person in your office to say, hey, this is what I'm doing and how can we work together kind of thing. From my experience, it seems like that's happening pretty well in a majority of counties, but like any relationship, it's definitely something that takes consistent work.
What you're presenting to us here about curiosity grows here, that is something that 4-H educators across the state would also be introduced to. So there would be a little bit of common language.
Yeah, yes. And this is a relatively new framework. I started introducing it to 4-H staff at State Fair last year, and we're also going to talk about it some more during the spring in-service. The Grows Here language is part of National Council stuff that 4-H staff see on a regular basis, and they have fun graphics and that kind of thing. So if you're doing recruitment posters and you need that kind of support, that it exists. So we're all sort of learning through this together.
And then, comes reporting time, and we are, it's like where does that come in? And I think I noticed somewhere down in the 5.8 section, that there were spots for, master gardeners doing outreach towards, the issues of childhood obesity. and I at the same time working with our 4-H educator here, trying to figure out, who gets credit for this? Where does it belong in our reporting? Obviously, it's done, and we're doing it together as an organization. But at some point, it can get confusing. So it is really good, I think, to kind of work that out ahead of time, figuring out where it belongs. It was more of a comment than a question, I think. And did that make any sense?
It totally does. And I think that it's definitely something that we keep wrestling with and try to find a better answer for. Because we're all trying to tell the best story we can about the impact that we're doing. And so much of our work is integrated, whether it's across program areas or even topics. So within 4-H, there are 3 focus areas for our programming around STEM, healthy living, and civic engagement. And a lot of times the way the system's set up, you have to choose one or the other, when in reality the program is both and it's stronger that way. So I think as far as the plan of work reporting for Celeste and that kind of thing, it mostly matters that it's not duplicated, so one person is reporting it and that it's in the system.
Right.
But when we talk about it with the public, then we use the both and kind of idea. So part of the reason that we're looking as a state team at our plan of work and our strategy moving forward is that we can, if we have a more consistent core, then we can develop evaluation and reporting tools to support the system at large so that every person doesn't have to make up an evaluation. We could have a few shared questions or tools or a toolbox of choices for people to go to. So we're really excited this year for the first time to have a 4-H spring in-service, and we're stealing heavily from the Ag in-service title. We really liked that, so we're copying it. And so the idea is that we'll have a 3-day conference where educators from across the state can come together to focus on youth development needs. And this grew out of club management conference that we've had for a couple of years, which really focused on community club delivery model kind of stuff. So there will be a strong element in the program this year all about volunteer management. So that is a huge part of our community club work. But we're also going to have a section around building campus-county connections, work around professional development for youth development professionals, and another one around communicating the impact of our 4-H work. On Wednesday, the 13th of April, which is the first day of the conference, we're going to have a special lunch / conversation opportunity where we really want to bring together people from local county programs with campus faculty and extension partners to have conversations and learn about your programs and build connections. So I'm really hoping that will tie in with the work that you're doing in the horticulture in-service, that you'll stay another day and have lunch with us, learn a little bit more about our 4-H program at the state level, what we're trying to do together, and you're welcome to come to the entire conference too. Yes, so the Youth Development in-service will be April 13th at 10 a.m. until April 15th at noon. So it's a Wednesday through Friday.
This in-service is on campus. We thought we would have, are contemplating the idea of having Tuesday, April 12th, maybe from 10 a.m. in the morning till 5 p.m., and have a horticulture in-service.
What I'm thinking about as we were talking and looking at all the faces names who showed up today, that more and more often we are working with youth and we are, we're integrating nutrition, vegetable gardening concepts into our programs. And I don't know, speaking from my own perspective, we did not used to do a lot of work with youth and families, but I think that all of us could probably benefit from, hanging out perhaps an extra day and seeing what's going on. So, that was one of the ideas was to have them close together, adjacent, so that we could get some crossover in both directions, and see what room there is for collaborative efforts.
We too would invite them to come the day before. Anybody who is maybe in the youth development area or nutrition area who's like, I need to know a little bit more about what happens in the gardening or horticulture area, they could, an individual could attend our in-service. We haven't even planned what we would have at that in-service, but we think that's a good day to start thinking about what we could have there.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.